Great. Can you see my slides okay here? And this is a pretty sparse slide deck. It's mostly a visual cue for me to remember to check in across a number of things and make sure I just don't forget anything for your benefit. And I'll be clicking out to different parts of the website and the Launchpad application and the online form that we're using for all these sort of parts of the submission. So how do you make sure you got all the right pieces and you have them going into all the right places? Great. So here's my proposed sort of scheme, but again, we can integrate ideas and questions and meet your needs as it makes sense. But here we go. Got somebody else coming in. Great. So we'll talk a little bit about the challenge website. If we did our job, I mean, ultimately, if you think about this workshop title, if we did our job correctly, everything that you absolutely need is on the ltgovcc.org site. Hey there. And so I'm mostly going to be walking through that, but really highlighting a couple different tools and things that I think will be helpful for folks to see. So we'll look specifically at this, some of the resources on the student page, some of the resources on the challenge page. We'll go over the 3 submission tools that you would use for either concept or prototype or development, and then just some other related opportunities as well. All righty. So, a very brief history. This project is 2 years old, so it's about as brief as history as we could imagine having. But I do want to point out, mostly as we think about putting together a complete solution, complete project for students and teams or individually, that last year, this popped up quickly with Lieutenant Governor really kind of seized with a number of stakeholders in government, in education, higher ed, the opportunity to really have kids thinking about COVID. We were, as you know, we were all home. There were, less structured opportunities for students to engage in challenges. I was involved in another part of this work doing challenge-based learning, and it was a really nice time for kids sometimes to dig in on a project, make a film, solve a computing problem. So the COVID challenge is really where this began last year, and it was a concept challenge. So it was really ideation, come up with an idea, a concept, communicate with it to us in certain ways, but didn't involve coding. It was really very much an ideation concept idea. And one of our objectives that the team of sort of volunteers that have been working on this project wanted to elevate, and the Lieutenant Governor as well, is to really make it a more full-fledged computing challenge where there are more sophisticated ways in which kids can apply knowledge and skill. It doesn't mean we won't have bang up concept challenges, and it's great, entry point for earlier grades or even some older students. But we just wanted to provide some different pathways for students. So, and actually on the Lieutenant Governor's Challenge website, there's a little link to last year's project if you ever want to kind of look back in the deep history. All right, great. So let me just highlight again the challenge website and some of the resources that we're going to take a peek at there today. One thing you'll notice, by the way, if you go to the site, like Lauren, if you've been to a couple of these webinars, I'm going to guess you've hit this thing once or twice. There's a little pop-up box. So whatever's current and relevant, there's been some mentor matching, and there's going to be another opportunity for some rounds of student feedback coming up that will be on the site. So, hopefully if you visit the site a lot, that may be a little annoying because you've seen it, but it will change and you'll have updates on that as well. So come back. They say come early and come often. So, all right. So I'm going to jump directly to the student page and just make sure that you've seen some of the bits and pieces that are helpful. I think because you all have landed on your project category already, this should be pretty familiar territory. You've already kind of made these decisions. But just to make sure for other folks that may view it over the webinar, over the recording, to know kind of what the frame is that they're looking at. And you know what, Gene, it looks like, do I have that right? You want to unmute for just a second? We're a small group, and I can just get a quick second to have you say hi and tell us what challenge you're working on or what students you're working with.
I'm working with high school students, and my challenge is getting them to participate at any level. So I'm still working on just the concept even. So it's been quite a challenge, but
Okay, great. And
I'm not giving up yet.
good. There's time. Where are you teaching?
Crosby High School.
Oh, awesome. Great. Good. Yeah, we've seen a number of different kind of inputs from Waterbury. So, all right. So if you are still at a crossroad at any level, the student page is sort of quite relevant in a few different ways. I'm just going to click throughout to the page. There's a handy video there that explains the 3 different challenge levels. I think everybody's probably seen that. Also a handy graphic. Again, given my eyesight, I zoom like crazy. So just bring that into the screen. Hopefully it won't give you vertigo. But really this was, as I was saying, this is from the history to this year. What we wanted to do is introduce 2 different levels. One where students are doing some coding, but are really at that level of prototyping. They can create a facsimile of what the application looks like and can do, but isn't a full-blown working application, and then the full development challenge area. So if you still have kids looking at the levels at all, that graphic's super helpful. The video is very helpful. And then I want to be careful because I think everybody's probably seen this in some detail, but literally, I mean, I think the agenda was like everything in caps all that you need to know about the students completing the challenge is here. There are other iterations of it. There are other places you can look at the kids knowing and you understanding what needs to be done. But, as we look at the 3 levels of the concept challenge, super specific questions they answer, the characteristics of the audio visual. And I know there's been a little bit of support on that for some of the webinars. There's a little bit more to come. So we'll be doing some additional resources for really focusing on that video asset. And then even the prompts for what the kids need to be thinking about and presenting in the video, right? In each section, then there's a couple different opportunities for what if you want to do more and what if you need more help and assistance. And it's great. We've had people reaching out. We've done some mentor matching. Norm might be able to speak to that a little bit, probably more familiar than I am, but it's been a really nice opportunity for students who've expressed interest to be able to make some connections, as well as people who are facilitating work for students. All right, and then all the details in explicit detail for the prototype challenge. So I don't want to kind of read through with you. I think that's probably not helpful, but I just want to make sure and really reiterate that people know that all the details for the 3 different levels are there. We'll look at checklists. We'll look at templates, which are both great resources that you can use to organize their thinking and maybe give them an on-ramp. Especially Gene, like if you're hitting some friction, at least letting them see the scope of the challenge and the size of it, because it's not too bad. We'll look at those, and those may be helpful. So, but before I come away from the student page, are there any questions? Anybody coming across anything in the details of the challenge levels that you need clarification on, or we can be helpful around? No? Okay. So that, again, like that seems that we probably did our job there in that regard. So that's great to know. All right. So let's talk more about the actual tools and resources that students can use and you can use to help them plan. And it's in the resource page. It's not, by the way, that the sponsors page or the submissions page or the home page aren't bang up pages. Like these are just quality pieces of the website. But I joke, right? I focus on the student page and the resources page because this is really for the purpose of putting it together, is where all the kind of critical resources are. All right, so we're going to look at the checklists that are there. There's basically 2 instruments. There's a set of scoring guides for the prototype and development challenge and a checklist for the concept challenge. There are template docs. I don't know if everybody's been using those, had a chance to take a peek at them, but those are really planning docs that you can kind of do all the work ahead of time in Google Docs or in a Word doc. It's for all sorts of reasons, and we'll look at them, but it's helpful to have a place for students to be able to map out their thinking. And also, they put their submissions ultimately into a Google form for the concept challenge, and then onto this platform called Launchpad that we'll take a look at for the prototype and development challenge. And so it's really nice to be able to have that mapped out. We've all had that experience where we're putting stuff into a system, right? I mean, I hope the students will have good experience working with it, but just having all their thinking organized in a Google Doc or a Word doc template before they start plugging into the system, hopefully will be a helpful tip. So we'll take a look at those, and then the instructional videos for logging on to Launchpad and using those tools, and I'll show you that as well. And so I get, Lauren and Sherry, everybody's at different levels, so you're going to see some stuff that is, helpful for you, and some stuff that's more relevant for other audiences. So I beg your indulgence. And next year you might have a third grader that is going to be she's going to be a genius coder, and she'll be right into the prototype challenge. Kids are doing it in Scratch and all sorts of block languages. So it is accessible in different kinds of ways. All righty, so let's go ahead and look specifically at the page. So the checklists are pretty straight, or the checklist and the scoring criteria are pretty straightforward. The checklist is really, and I guess we should say a little bit about, the way in which these are reviewed. So, we'll have a wide set of submissions that come in here, but don't think of this as any of them really as a cutthroat competition. We'll definitely be scouring through these at different levels with different folks. But it's just an opportunity for everybody to get involved. So when we look at a checklist or we look at a scoring guide, I would look at it as just reminders of what you need to be doing at different levels, but not so much, we don't want to constrain anybody's creativity. So here you have it for the concept. And again, Lauren, I think this is at your level. You've seen this and kind of looked through this doc a little bit. All right, great. So for anyone else who hasn't been there yet, that's going to be a helpful tool. And then the scoring criteria are pretty similar for the prototype and development challenges. And at these two levels, there will be a juried review. So, there'll be a group of professionals who sign up as judges, who represent a wide different, some people in computer science and academia and industry and government, who will be using these prompts, directly to give feedback and think about the different projects that they see. Okay. And so there's one of the reasons that we have the students working on the Launchpad platform is that way the judges can actually see their work automatically digitally. So, there'll be a group of reviewers, which is really the more appropriate term, but they'll be able to see, it's as close as we can come right now in the virtual world to giving them direct access to the work that the students are doing. All right, so those are the scoring criteria, or the checklist or the scoring criteria. Any questions on any of that? Awesome. Great. So let's talk about the docs. I'm going to use the Google Doc form, but it's there in both. And again, these are planning templates. You'll notice as soon as you do this that you're prompted to make a copy so that the students have their own individual. If they're working in teams within your domain, you can then share it out within students in the domain. But it's basically mimicking the Google form that the students fill out, right? There's some demographic information on the front end of the form, telling about the team and the students participating. But once they get beyond that first page, and I'll show you, I think if folks know where that link is, but I'll just remind you for the concept challenge, they're able literally to go through, and there are prompts for the questions. They're giving you what the word counts are. So, part of what I should have really shared when we were looking at the student page is that Kristen Violet and some members on our team and a number of other teachers really spent quite a bit of time thinking through all the different components that would be responsible or required, and how to structure them and how to put kind of good constraints around them. So it's really, these templates are just an expression of Kristen and that team's work. All right. So that's the concept challenge. And again, students then have this as their own doc that they could customize and share. It doesn't touch the root doc. And then for the prototype challenge, same thing. And by the way, again, just to highlight, so there's the Google Doc reference link, but like Sherry, I think you're using yours in Word docs, right? And in a Microsoft environment. Sorry, you can unmute. Yeah, no worries.
I do that when I teach too. Um, so we started in with using the doc, but I may switch now that I've seen the Google Doc. I may switch them over because we literally just started it on Monday. So I don't know if the Google Doc would be easier for them to work with. I guess it doesn't really matter, but the answer is yes. We started in the Word doc.
Yeah, either one, whatever, some school districts are really deep into Google Drive and Google Docs. They work they're exactly the same. It's just this one would allow the kids to share all those. There's a mechanism to do that in Microsoft World as well.
Right.
So yeah,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
little bit more detailed here now. So this is really laying out the structure of what a submission looks like on the prototype challenge in in Google Doc or Word doc form. So the about page, the title and hashtag, and everything that you see here, right? Title and hashtag, logo, video trailer, it all maps back word to the challenge as it's listed on the student page. Okay, but here you've got the questions so the students can kind of do that pre-brainstorming, questions about the audience, questions about connecting with the audience in terms of logo and colors and message, the about information about the teams. And it's fun because this is just a linear presentation where, again, they can map it out, but you'll see in just a second what that looks like when they're actually on the Launchpad platform, which some of you have begun to see, or Sherry, I know you've seen, and some folks hopefully will take advantage of the webinar have seen as well. All right, so that's the planning templates. They're really for prototype and development. They're pretty similar. I mean, they're different in the ways we understand the challenge levels to be different in terms of some code for one working function versus a fully working application or solution. It is coding for good. All right, the video playlists, actually, we can look at it in a couple different ways, but these two instructional video playlists were designed in part because we knew that students would be, and I apologize, Lauren, the concept challenge did not get a video playlist, and it's only because it just wasn't quite complicated enough to make sure we needed to walk through every step in video, but the prototype and development challenges have enough moving parts. So we put together basically a step-by-step video playlist of what the students do, including the content of the questions, as well as how they put them onto the Launchpad platform. And so let me just pull up an example of that real quick. So this is linked out here on the public facing webpage to kind of get oriented. But if you've logged into Launchpad yet, you'll see what it looks like in that environment as well. So there's a video that's about getting oriented to the challenge. There's a video about selecting your level and naming your project, about uploading the logo. They're all pretty quick. They're basically screen recordings, how to create your video trailer. And that's more how to like get it up there onto the challenge website on the students page, how to make their plan, how to show their code. So let me just quickly, I'll grab one here as an example. So we'll go to the show your code. I think you all can hear that.
Submission will be the actual code for one working feature of your prototype. This should be a PDF illustrating the code for the one working feature of your prototype that your team programmed. To submit Show Your Code, select Create and Manage, and then select Edit Profile. Then select Edit next to Submission. Select Add a Section, choose Show Your Code.
Now, in this case, I jumped in pretty far down the line, but students will have walked through all the other steps to go through. And so the videos are just there to sort of show them both the technical part of how they do it on Launchpad and, just reminding them what they're actually meant to be uploading. Alrighty. So there's one for each one of those. And so as we come back to our agenda, just make sure we've got, so we've talked about the planning templates, about the how-to videos, and then I can show you what this actually looks like inside of Launchpad. I should mention, by the way, on the resources page, there's also a set of these webinars which have been recorded, and we've seen some nice views. So people have, even if they haven't caught them in real time, they've kind of been able to go back and take a look at them. And there's also a set of really nice additional tools and resources. Let me just show those real quickly, because it all in part really goes to that session topic, making a complete and the most promising project presentation that a student or students can. So all the webinars that happen every other Tuesday, and then a couple others in different times, are up here. Are the video ones up right now? So I know this will be chock full of information, a little teaser preview. So April 6th, submission of the video, what and how. So if, students thinking a little bit about your timing, and this is relevant for concept and prototype and development. So, certainly feel free to take advantage of that. Alrighty, and then there are a couple of resource videos that are really helping us think about coding for good and inclusion, women and minorities, and different folks not always represented in computer science or often represented in computer science. And then some additional tools of a couple different varieties. Mentor Connecting, a great tip and tool resource doc that was created from a few webinars, again, a couple Apple resources, student flyer. So the Connecticut Educational, the Commission's hub. So all that there, and feel free to take advantage. And if you have something that you love, that you use with your students and you think we should have up here, absolutely send us an email. Happy to take a look at it and share things. All right, let me take a breath and pause. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Any questions? Anything Norm and Kristen, who are so graciously hanging out with us too?
Matt, I just have a quick question. I
Yeah, you
feel
bet.
I'm so redundant with this. I had emailed you regarding the form for the concept challenge. Just to clarify, are we filling out one form as the team, or is each child filling out a form for themselves?
Yep, that's great, and thanks for the reminder, Lauren. I've been the guy monitoring the info account, so I remember that well now. Yeah, it's one for the whole crew, right? And it actually asks you in the form if that's how you want to have them participate, right? If you want to have them in a team, and I should have this completely memorized off the top of my head, but I think it's, what do we say the max level of the team is?
I think it's 4.
Yeah, no, I should have just asked you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be that group together, right?
Yes. So we're just filling out one form as a team then, because we're doing it as a group, right?
That's right, because you have one group and that's the total number of your kids. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
that's, hopefully that's been a good experience. I mean, we certainly had individual submissions last year. We had a lot of team submissions. We definitely think the process of them working together in team and problem solving and doing a lot of the kind of working through those templates together is a great opportunity. So thanks for doing that and giving them that experience. We're really excited to see what they come up with. All right, so we can take a second real quick to look at Launchpad and just see if there's anything that's helpful for me to make sure that you all see there. There are 2 phases to Launchpad, and I know Sherry, that's how we wound up connecting, because you signed up for a teacher account, and I get those emails as well. So everybody who's signed up, we didn't put a big flag out that says, hey, teachers, come sign up for a teacher account, but number did, and that was helpful for us to see if there's ways that we could be helpful. So I'll show you what it looks like on both ends. All right. So as we said, the main Lieutenant Governor Challenge site, right, is ltgovcc.org. So the Launchpad version is ltgov.skills21.org. And that is just for context, so Skills 21 is the team that I mentioned that I run, and we've been doing challenge-based learning for a long time. So we were happy to use some of the tools and help the Lieutenant Governor's Challenge kind of take full advantage of having some tech for the kids to do their projects. So students have signed up, and we've seen a good number of projects come in so far, not projects, but students signing up and kind of working on their profiles using a Google account. So I'm going to use my friendly demo student account. So when students log in, they will have already thought probably through what level of the challenge I want, but nonetheless, it's right there yet again. You can't blame us for trying to be on point. So there's the two different kind of levels, and then there is a video explaining those two different levels. And yet again, the two different video playlists walking them through that. So when a student logs in, they see those different resources. And then essentially what they're doing is building. I'm going to come up to create and manage. And I'll mention, right, so there again are the video how-tos that pretty much show them the steps. And then also, I should just point out, at the top of the page is a little help button where, in fearing redundancy, we have the how-tos listed again. There's a couple technical how-tos, and actually Sherry and I just went over this in terms of how to have an account where you can sort of see what those teachers are working on. So how to add a teacher advisor, how to create a course section and the like. All right, so just know that those are there, but basically what students are doing is they click on this area that says create and manage. Now I've already gone in here and picked, as you can see, a prototype 6th through 8th in my kind of sample project called Solar Sound. So I've done the first couple steps where I've created a project. I've picked my category that I'm working on. I've named it. I've probably even built out my hashtag. So I did the first little step that you all won't see here again. If you have kids logging in for the first time, they'll be asked to pick the challenge level and to name their project. They can always go back and change the name. So if they're starting, they can just say our starting project and then come back to it. There is a little code here I just want to point out. So in Launchpad, a little bit to Lauren's question about the structure of the submission for the concept challenge, for Launchpad, the way that teams can submit together is have one student essentially start the project. And then you see their little code right here, and there's a tutorial in the how-tos and helps on this. So this little code can be used by another student. They would go in and click join a project. They would put that code in, and then they would be working together collaboratively on that one. So that's just a little, part to navigate. If Sherry, I think your kids are doing individually on Launchpad, so you don't have to worry about that step.
Right.
But where anybody might be doing a team, even a dyad or a triad, that is a vehicle where they can join that project together. Alrighty.
But is this, just really quick, is this
Yeah.
where they connect to their teacher with add a reviewer? Is that what
Yes.
you said to me?
Yep, it is
So
exactly.
this is what it looks like.
Yeah, this is what it looked like.
Okay.
And I think I probably sent out, you'll see this in a couple of video tutorials. So if it doesn't, you need a memory refresher on it. So in the email, hopefully you got back, there was a little video tutorial on how the students do it and how
Right.
you do it. Yeah. So when I click
Yes, I
add
looked at
reviewer, I have my demo teacher here. So I'm going to click demo teacher and we'll actually see this and click save. The way that works, by the way, that's isn't it good when you say the way that works, by the way, and you get a little button that says sorry, something went wrong. All right, well, we'll look when we get to the student side if that worked correctly, but let me make a quick little note of that. The teacher has to be in the same, when you sign up for the challenge, they have to be in the same school. So that's essentially one,
Right.
that's who I see. So if I'm in Guilford and I have students in Guilford and I'm a teacher in Guilford and I associate myself with that school when I sign up, then the teacher and students will be able to see each other through this add reviewer link. Okay, so as students work on their project, again, the good news is that they use this Google Doc template. They've already thought through all the answers, but now here's what it looks like when they're actually on their profile. So I see my project name, Save Our Sound. I should put a disclaimer out. This is a sample project. It is not an indicator of a level that we're asking anyone to perform to. It's not an exemplar. It's in the videos, and it was important for us to have a sample for folks to see, but just see it as a sample. And it's actually doesn't click through to all the actual resources. But at any point, the students can go back and they can change the name of the project. And then there are basically 3 pages that they're working on. And there's a little bit here where if they want to have some fun and change the color palette for their profile page, they absolutely can do that. But it is essentially their about page, their submission page, and their coding experience page. And the templates and the student facing website that we first looked at follows that same scheme. So in the about page, it looks a little like this. So Lauren, again, I know you're a concept, but I want to think about the 2022 kids that are going to come do some cool early block coding. So this is where they'll put up their trailer. Well, they'll put up their logo, and then the 2 sections of text that will be on their homepage, actually 3, the overview for the project, the audience, and the team. Okay. And these are all just text entries. They don't need to look beautiful, but the students likely will have already written all this information in the Google Doc. But this is where they load it up into their page. And this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to click on View Profile. And so that's what it looks like when you're done, right? The kids then on their homepage have the video of the trailer of the project, their logo, and then these text entries. And then this is what the reviewers, after the kids do their submission, before we do a really fun ceremony with the Lieutenant Governor and all the sort of stakeholders and look at some projects, we'll be able to actually see the students' work through this lens. All right, so that's what it looks like on the home page. And then I'll come back to these 2 pages are similar. The about page is structured a certain way, and then submission and coding experience. So under submission, there are 2 artifacts. It's the plan. So this is a PDF doc where they really map out the strategy, the wireframe, the flow chart, however they've decided to communicate what the prototype looks like. And so they just have a little library style tool, and this one's already built out, but you can see what it looks like. So if I click edit, the students would have said, okay, great, I'm uploading my plan. If they want to, they can change this little default image, which is just Lieutenant Governor's logo. It might make their page look kind of fun and match the topic that they're working on. There's a little summary where they write it up, and then they can add an attachment as either Google Drive link or a file that they have locally on their computer. Okay. There's a little how-to on how all that stuff works as they're going through Launchpad, but those are the 2 submissions on that page, their plan, and then the show your code. And if you go back to the template, the Google Doc template, or to the video series, or to the student webpage, all of those pieces are laid out. What goes into show your code, what goes into the plan. Okay. And then the other page that they work on is their coding experience. This is one quick little section, and the instructions. We give them the math formula, but it's not too complex. So they tell us each this is formal or informal experience, how many years they have, the drop down between the 3 of them or the team members. The drop down will let you select that number of years, and they just submit that. Okay. And that's just for us, as we're able to look at the projects and the reviewers are able to look at the projects. So they have a little context for the team. And certainly, hopefully the team might on the about page in their bio, they might say a little bit within the character counts about their team as well. But that's where we can just get a roughly fixed number about coding experience. And that is a preview of what Launchpad looks like. Okay. And, we certainly don't want students to get hung up. We think it'll be really helpful to do that planning document ahead of time and then to get into Launchpad. But if they need any assistance with any of this, and same is true for the teachers, we're happy to do that. I'll log in real quickly as a teacher, just so we can see what that looks like. The teachers are not required to do this. We just wanted to make sure if they wanted to, there's a way that they could see their students' work. I mean, the students, by the way, I should have mentioned, when we were looking at that profile page, what it looks like with the video, that URL is a URL that the students can share openly, right? It's not password protected. So if they're working on their project and they want to share it with somebody for feedback, they certainly can. I think we lost Jean for a little hot second there. Great, we got you back. Sorry about that. Yeah, so students are able to share that website URL, if they want to. So for a teacher, sorry, I must have logged back in as a student again. My bad. Trying to log in and talk at the same time apparently is beyond my, at 7:38 is apparently beyond my. All right, so as a teacher, I'm going to log in and click manage. And actually, I don't see any of my students because we have that little bug. I'll have to sort out what happened there. But essentially, Sherry, this was the other part of the, oh, you know what it is? I'm sorry, I take it back. As the demo teacher, I need to create courses and sections. That was my little error here. So I apologize. I'll geek out for a second. Sherry, what's your class name and what period do you teach it?
It's AP Computer Science Principles,
Yeah.
and it's period 1.
See, this is as authentic as a webinar as we can have. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. All right, so what your students should have seen when we clicked add teacher is your name and then the section if you were to have multiple sections that it would belong to. Okay, so had we had that, you would basically get a view of your kids will show up here and you could click through to see any of the resources that they've created. We can real quickly. I'm going to dare having a bug live on webinar, but let's try. Yep. All right. So
Matt, it says demo student when you click next to the name, right?
oh yeah. Why am I getting that? See, that's why I created an error of clicking on the wrong thing. Yeah, I'll just see why it's set up like that. But Sherry, you can try it tomorrow. I think the two videos that you saw should walk you through it. And if you don't have luck, or even if I'm happy to hang on after we wrap up here to
Can you
take a look at
add
it.
under add reviewer, can this demo student page add the demo teacher?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, so I got to figure out if I got these
Oh,
guys
okay.
created in the same group myself. So I got to see
Okay.
what I use on there.
I
All
actually
right.
met with one of my students and we worked it out today. So
Okay.
hopefully tomorrow, I'll be able to get everybody else on board. Sometimes virtually, that's not the easiest way to do it, but
Are you remote
um,
right now, or
um,
no? Your kids are in, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, our kids are in, but my classes are remote because we had to quarantine. So we had a case in one of our classes. So now
Gotcha.
we're virtual for 10 days.
Yep.
So we're kind of walking through this virtually, but it's going that, they share it's working out. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to see them all, see all their projects and where they are. We're going step by step, watching the videos together and working through it.
Perfect. That's great.
So,
That's excellent. All right. Well, I tell you what, we can leave the thing recording. It's neat. They actually have, this was new to me, and I feel like my Zoom skills were adequate, not masterful, but we have auto record running now, so you don't even have to put the reminder on. This may be old news to you guys, but it was new to me. So. All right, any questions, anything? That slide deck will be up, but essentially, hopefully I've presented something new to you. You all have spent some pretty quality time on here. And, again, if we did our job right, providing a complete submission means you're able to use the tools and resources that we shared there. So, thanks for your indulgence to let me walk through them in some detail. And hopefully there's some new little nugget that you may have picked up. But do you, any other quick questions? Anybody want to unmute, chime in with anything? We're just enormously excited that you're doing it, and anything we can do to be helpful, certainly take advantage of that.
Matt, I'd just like to add one little piece.
Yeah.
Is
Please.
that first of all, well done explaining all of those submission things. I think that's it was a great overview, and I just wanted to remind people and just bring their attention to that. Using those templates is a major help, and also when you go to upload to Launchpad, a lot of times kids might underestimate the amount of time it might take. So having those templates ahead of time is very helpful. And also just wanted to draw your attention as Matt scrolled through those webinars, the last one that we have scheduled, and I don't know the date off the top of my head, it's right before the submission. And that one is dedicated just to any sort of submission, whether there be questions or problems and things like that. So I don't want you to feel that you're left hanging. But we did have that plan to just kind of come back to this topic prior to the deadline of April 30th. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Thanks, Kristen. That's great. And I launched my screen back up if you guys can see that. So yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's Q&A about submissions only on April 27th. So register early and often. Anyone who's watching on the recording, come join us. Great. All right. Thanks, Kristen. Anything else, anybody? It was lovely to spend 45 minutes with you all, and thanks for a little of your evening time. We definitely know this is still a hard stretch. So, and I'm sure, Jean, to your point, having the kids, tap into the motivation, but yeah, anything we can do, and just sometimes even thinking about other projects that kids have done that are out there, tips and tricks for motivating. So excellent. Well, everybody have a good rest of the night. Enjoy this warm weather. It is a great bit of self-care. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye now.
Yeah, no
Bye-bye.